Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Parashat Ekev. Broadcasting here from Lakewood, New Jersey, from the house of my son-in-law and daughter. Hashem should be poked ota beben zachar, bari v'shalem b'karov. In the Zechut HaTorah, I'm here with my Talmud Gal, Shakadosh Baruch Hu yishmereh v'chayeo, shlach lo siyata dishmaya, liot gadol b'Torah. I want to pick up on a big point. And for those who caught last night's class, Baruch Hashem, there is a point, a parcel, that we almost hit on last night, and due to the late hour, we didn't. So I'd like to give a brand new idea. But first, let's start with Beracha. Kedarkenu b'kodesh, Baruch, Ata Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech Ha'olam, Shakol Nihiyah Bidvaro.
Amen.
In a Corona society, we've been hearing so many people crying out for help, complaining that the Parnassa is so difficult. So many people out of jobs. Ad kedei kach, that the feeling is that it's in these times that it's so difficult to make a living. Last night, we spoke a lot about the bitachon aspect, reminding each other that one, the success and the results of you making a living has nothing to do with Corona. But then again, it has nothing to do with you either. The master of all success, the koveya of all results, is only Borei Olam. Today I want to pick on another point. We touched upon this Parashat Ekev. Ekev milashon ikveta de Meshicha. Ekev milashon shedash be'akvotav. It's something, the mitzvot that Rashi mentions, that people trample on and they don't realize how important they are. I want to touch upon one of those mitzvot. And then we'll bring this back to the Parnassa. Maybe we'll be able to be zocheh to a great light. Please open your hearts and listen to this. Says the Sefer HaChinuch in Mitzvah Taf Lamed. The Sefer HaChinuch was a sefer that wrote the Mikor, the Ta'am, a lot of the Svarot, to many of all the 613 mitzvot in Torah. And therefore, for the Chinuch to go now and start to speak in the way of Sigulot is not uncharacteristic. This is not his way. But listen to what he writes. Kach mikubal ani, this is the words of the Sefer HaChinuch. Kach mikubal ani merabotai. I have a Kabbalah from my Rebbes. Yishmerem El, God should watch over them. She kol hazahir b'birkat hamazon. Someone who's careful in saying the birkat hamazon word for word, slowly, inside a sidur. Mizonotav mitzuyin la b'kavod kol yamav. His mizonotav, his parnassa, his food, his sustenance, his livelihood, will be available to him, will be brought to him his entire lifetime, b'kavod, with honor. Not handouts, but with honor. And then he goes on to talk about all the different pointers of birkat hamazon. But he just told you a powerful segula. Somebody that's careful with birkat hamazon, word for word, slowly. He doesn't swallow the words, but rather he literally counts the words like you count money. He says it out loud. His ears can hear his voice. He says it inside a sidur, not by heart. That person is guaranteed. Mitsuyin lo, rather, b'chavod kol yamav mizonotav. His mizonot will be there for him his whole lifetime. He won't have to struggle. It'll be brought to him b'chavod, with honor. Amazing. Now, at first glance, when one asks what's the connection between birkat hamazon and a person's parnassa, well, at the end of the day, the simple point is that birkat hamazon is a thank you for the food that one ate. And that represents one's sustenance, one's parnassa. And therefore, if you're saying thank you for the food that you ate, so obviously Hashem says, look at this guy. He's not an ingrate. He has hakarat hatov that I brought him his parnassa. He's thanking me for his parnassa. And that shows that he believes it comes from Hashem. So Hashem says, this guy knows where the parnassa comes from. I'm going to continue to help him to get more parnassa. That would be the simple pshat on what the connection between saying birkat hamazon properly and being zocheh to a proper parnassa, b'kavod, would amount to. But the truth is, the wording over here of the chinuch is a little bit stronger than that. Mizonotav misuyin lo b'kavod kol yamav. That's a little bit more than just someone who showed hakarat hatov. I'd like to delve deeper to what the connection is, on a deeper level, between someone who says birkat hamazon carefully, properly, cautiously, to the fact that there's a promise, a sigula from the Baal HaChinuch, that person will be zocheh to parnassa b'chavod. B'chavod. So Rabotai, open your hearts, listen to this. I'd like to share with you a thought that I'm really hoping tonight, when you come to the Shabbat table, you're going to enjoy an idea that we're about to put out now, that I'm hoping will change your entire outlook. That every time you sit down by the table Shabbat with your family, it'll be an experience rather than just a meal. I know those are big words, but hear me out. I want you to hear what I have to say on this. If you take a good look, Masechet Sanhedrin, at the end of the 8th Perek, and you find this also in the end of the 7th Perek in Masechet Berachot, there's a famous sugya over there that's called Lechem. Now, that sugya of Lechem, obviously dealing with bread, but it's a specific aspect about bread. It's the sugya about the kavod for bread. How someone needs to respect bread and cannot simply use bread for any use that comes his way. Example, the Gemara mentions, you're not allowed to use bread as a support for your plate. Let's say you have a shaky plate. They brought you a bowl of soup, and the plate is a little off. And because of that, the soup is obviously not stable, so every time you go down to take a little bit more, you got to chase it, and it spills over to the side. So this guy comes along, and he props up his plate with a piece of bread just to balance it out. You're not allowed to do that. It's a bizayon for the bread. It's a zilzul in the bread. And the Gemara over there goes out and tells us really different specific pointers of what you're not allowed to do that will be a zilzul for the bread. One we just mentioned, you're not allowed to use it as a support for a plate. Another point the Gemara says, you're not allowed to throw the bread. The Gemara talks about the weddings that they used to have chatan and kala. Not only they would throw wheat, but they would actually throw gluskaot, which were these little types of breads. It was like a Danish or a donut, but it was like a type of a bread. And because it was a type of bread-based food, there was a problem with throwing it. Because throwing the bread is a zilzul to the bread. You remember when you were a kid, your mother told you, don't throw the food. Stop throwing food. It's not nice. It's a zilzul specifically when it comes to bread. And all these points are brought in Shulchan Aruch. How one has to have a certain kavod for the way he deals with bread in his meal. But something interesting. I came across a fantastic marmakom, and this is actually found over there in the end of the 8th Perek in Sanhedrin, in the Sefer Margalit Hayam. Harav Margolis, who is the one who wrote Margalit Hayam, he brings over there from Rishonim something fantastic. If I'm not mistaken, he brought in the name of the Maharit, but I'm not sure. But I gave class on that sugya, and I remember clearly that the Margalit Hayam brought this pshat in the name of the Rishonim. And he says something like this. He says, this that the Gemara tells you, that you're not allowed to throw bread, because it's a zilzul to the bread itself, like one of the many halachot, things you're not allowed to do that's not honorable enough, or maybe it's a zilzul for the bread and it's kavod. Says Margalit Hayam, when the Gemara says you're not allowed to throw bread, it's talking about during the week, Yemei Chol. But Friday night, when the father cuts the chalot by hamotzi of lechem mishneh, he's able to toss and throw the bread from each person on the table of what anybody needs. And there, not only isn't it a zilzul for the bread, but it's the biggest kavod. Really? Margalit Hayam, Harav Margolis. Where did you get this concept from? What's the svara? What's the reason? He says something fantastic in the name of the Rishonim. He says, when a person sits down to his Shabbat table Friday night, if you would only know what's happening at that moment. Besides the fact that you're surrounded by angels, besides the fact that you have the 2 angels that walk you home from shul Friday night, and they enter your house with you, and they want to see, is the table properly set? Is the table prepared? Are they going to dilly-dally and sit on the couch and start talking politics? Are they going to dilly-dally, sit on the couch and start talking about the events that came up in shul that night, or how long the rabbi spoke? Or maybe they go straight to the table to show kavod for the Shabbat table, the malachei hasharet that's hanging and waiting on your table to hear the singing, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hashalom. If we only had the proper eyeglasses, when we came home, we would look around our Shabbat table, we would be in awe. We would see the angels, not just the angels, the celestial angels, the Malachei Hasharet, those are the high angels. And they're around our table, and they're waiting for us to begin. If we would see that, our entry to the Shabbat table, our hargashot, the way we would behave, our feelings would be completely a different story. And they wait. And we come to the table, and we sing Shalom Aleichem. And then we sing Eshet Hayil. And then many of us have the minhag to say different piyutim. By us in the house, we sing Bar Yochai. Other people, they sing all different types of Azamar Bishvachin, written by the none other than the Arizal. And others that they say on, and then of course Mizmor LeDavid is very important to say Friday night before Kiddush, Al Pi Kabbalah. And then finally we get to Kiddush. When we make Kiddush al Hayayin, the Kiddush is a dioraita for those who didn't pray already in shul, like our wives. But then we make it on a cup of wine, which is a derabanan. And then right after Kiddush, some people have the minhag that they make berachot on the table by the salads in order to be mimaleh, the 100 berachot, because Shabbat, the Amidah, is shorter, so we need to find places to make up the deficit of the 100 berachot that one is required to make every day. Some people have the minhag to make berachot at that spot. Others don't like making berachot on that spot. They're worried about beracha she'ena tzricha because they're about to start a seudah. But we finally get to the bread. And this is my point. Last night we spoke about Netilat Yadayim and how incredible of a concept it is, and how the Ben Ish Chai taught us it directly helps the Parnassa and the Ashirut of people that do Netilat Yadayim properly with a lot of water. But then says the Margalit Hayam, says Rabbi Margolis, when you come back to your table to sit down to say Hamotzi, you, the father of the table, right now take on the role of Kohen Gadol. Your table is like a mizbeach. By the way, the Zohar HaKadosh talks about this. Your table is like your Shabbat table is like a mizbeach. The food on your Shabbat table are like korbanot. Says Margalit Hayam in the name of the Rishonim, when the father cuts that first challah in the Hamotzi Lechem in Haaretz, it's literally kemo shchitat korbanot. You understand what we're involved in at that moment? You understand why our thoughts need to be genuine, holy, and clean. God forbid we know that one place that the thoughts of a man is actually ma'akev, that it could make what he's doing pasul, is when it came to the slaughtering of korbanot. It's called pigul. If your thoughts are improper, then the korban is NG. So the father is now shechting, so to speak, cutting the bread, or if the minhag is that he's ripping apart the bread, either way, but he's now starting the korbanot process on the mizbeach as Kohen Gadol. Says Margalit Hayam, after the Kohen Gadol did the shechita, what did he do? After that, what did he do? He slaughtered the animal. He caught the blood. And then he would start taking the different parts of the animal and tossing it to the different sides of the Mizbeach. He would take the chalavim. He would take the certain different parts of the animal, throw it to the east corner and to the west corner, and he would start throwing the different parts, spreading out the animal, and be misader the korban to be properly processed, step by step. Kabbalah, holacha, zirika, for those who require. Says the Margalit Hayam, you, Dad, Friday night, you are the Kohen Gadol on our table and our Shabbat table. We need to beautify it because the holiness is me'en, the home mizbeach. The food on the table are korbanot, and it starts with the challah. And then the challah, once it's cut, the father then takes the pieces of the challah and he literally goes through the step-by-step ceremony that the kohen would do after the slaughtering of the korban on the mizbeach. He would take the pieces of bread and start throwing it out to different parts of the table, mimicking the kohen as he processed the korbanot of Am Yisrael on the mizbeach itself. Wow. Oh, if I only knew, Rabbi. Now you know. That's why tonight's meal is going to be a different meal. Tonight you're going to walk in with the white jalabia. You're going to look like a kohen. You're going to sit there with kavanah. You're going to tell your kids, guys, you know what we're about to do now? We are about to bring me'en. Obviously, it's not korbanot. But it's a reminder. It's a zecher. It is a ceremony that we can still grab onto to remind us of once what we had in holiness and purity. And that's our Shabbat table, our Mizbeach. That's our Mizbeach. How many times the table that a man eats on is his Mizbeach? Shulchano shel Adam mechaperin alav, says the Gemara. The shulchan of a man is mechaper on him. How? How's that? How does my table bring me kapara? Now you understand. If the table is dome to a mizbeach, and the food on the table is tantamount to the korbanot, when you properly navigate and you have the right mindset while eating your food on the table, you actually get credit for the korbanot on the mizbeach. And the korbanot were mechaper for the Baal, for the people who brought it. Shulchano shel Adam mechaprim alav. This is a big idea. Tonight you got to make a difference. Tonight you got to come to your Shabbat table and you got to understand that you are playing the role of kohen, Dad. And Mom, you're the Sagan Kohen. You're the right hand, the aid and the abetter to make sure that everything of the process, of this holy process that reminds us of korbanot, is done properly, so that the table could be mechaper for the whole family. But now, no wonder, says Margalit Hayam, Friday night, although typically we don't throw bread because that's a zilzul, that's a total zilzul to the kavod of the bread. He says, yeah, but that's during the week when we looked at the bread as bread. But Friday night we look at the bread as the korbanot and the process of the korbanot. When the kohen slaughtered the korban, he would now throw the different parts to different corners of the mizbeach to be misader, the korban, to do the 4 steps of properly bringing korbanot. So to the father, after cutting the bread, he throws it to the different corners of the table, resembling exactly the actions of the kohen after the slaughtering of korbanot on the mizbeach. That means that your entire table is upgraded when the meal is properly conducted. And especially on Shabbat. And especially tonight. The whole table is upgraded. Your table is upgraded to a mizbeach, mechaprim. It actually brings kapara to you and the family. The food upgraded to korbanot, to the extent that I don't even look at bread as bread anymore. I look at it as the beginning of the korbanot, and now I can throw it to the different corners of the mizbeach, because that's what the kohen did. The food on the table, even the regular dishes on the table, the roast, the salads, the fish, how extensive the Mishnah Berurah, take a look at the very beginning of Hilchot Shabbat, how extensive the Mishnah Berurah goes out of his way in a certain way to describe how important it is to eat fish on Shabbat. Obviously for people who like fish. He says very clearly, if you don't like fish, and more so, if fish turns you off or gets you disgusted, then it's a kavod for you not to have it. but if you like the fish, then that's the kavod. What does that mean, that's the kavod? What does that mean, that's the oneg? What it means is that literally is upgrading the food's kedusha to oneg Shabbat food, kavod Shabbat food, korbanot ala mizbeach. We Jews have the opportunity to upgrade ourselves to kohanim if we properly run the seudah. We as Jews are able to upgrade the table to mizbeach if we properly run the seudah. We can upgrade the food to korbanot if we properly run the seudah. And if our intentions, this has a lot to do with intent. If our intentions are pure, and if our intentions are right, and our hearts are in the right place, that we want to do it right, we want to do it pure, we want to do it holy, we want to really accomplish something and reach big heights and kapara. Can you imagine your table? Do you know that there's a famous Gemara? The Gemara talks over there. Where's the Gemara? I think it's in Psachim. The Gemara talks about a rabbi who the people of his town used to do a lot of ta'aniyot. The people of his town used to do a lot of ta'aniyot. They used to fast a lot. And it turns out that at the end of the day they were very weak. And this big rabbi told the people, why are you fasting so much? You could do greater kapara by eating. You just have to know what you're doing. Your intentions have to be right. You have to be l'shem shamayim. You have to want to do it with purity. This demonstrates to us that we have the ability to upgrade our food, our table, and ourselves. When a person has the right machshavot and has the right blessings and thinks and eats l'shem shamayim. Unbelievable. If this is the case, I want to touch upon one more point to take what we just said and go even deeper. If my machshavot upgrade the food, where my Shabbat table is now a mizbeach, and the food korbanot, and I the kohen, then how much more could we understand the concept of upgrading food when it comes to making berachot on the food itself? Let me explain to you what I mean. I want to tell you over a magnificent Maharal. The Maharal wants to give an explanation. He wants to give a pshat. What is the concept behind making a beracha before you eat? Maharal says something really very high, but I think we can grasp this. Says the Maharal, did you ever see the brilliance behind an apple, an orange? For someone to really appreciate what I'm going to say now, you got to go back to Rabbi Miller, Zechet Tzadik Lebracha. He was the king in this area. You got to go back to his tapes, back to his books. Rabbi Miller would take that apple and he would dissect the apple and show you how much genius and how much brilliance and how much plan and purpose and design that there was placed into every single fruit. I mean, this is something off the charts. We could spend a whole class or two just on this idea. How the fact that Hashem made the apple this magnificent red to make it so attractive. He could have made the apple just straight away white, and it would have tasted the same way. No. He gave it this magnificent packaging, something that was moshech the eye. You ever see the way the apple shines in the sun? It looks like gems. It looks like precious stones. It's so appealing. And it screams to the eye and then to the heart and to the mind and to the taste buds, crying out to eat it. That's a chesed Hashem, that he made the apple a magnificent color. And then on top of that, you bite into the apple. On one hand, it has a little bit of a sweet taste, but then on the other hand, it has a little bit of a sour taste. It's a sweet and sour combo that was perfectly balanced by Borei Olam. And then on top of that, Hashem put this wrapper around the apple so that worms should have a difficulty getting inside, because if it was just the soft inside, it would be very inviting for insects and worms to get all over it, and then it would be disgusting in our eyes. Then we wouldn't want to eat it. So Hashem gift wrapped that apple for me and you in this type of saran wrap so that nothing could get inside. And even if the insects get on top of that outer layer of the apple, that saran wrap of the apple, but at the end of the day, it can't penetrate in. And if it did, we can see. You see that? And for us, it's nothing. All we do is take the apple, even if it gets dirty, or something flies on it, or whatever, and we just wash it off. And that was perfectly fine. These are all thought out, planned, and purpose-like chesed that Hashem did for us when he made us that perfect creation called the apple. So much genius and thought went into the perfection of one apple. And let alone, let's talk about the little cord, the cork that comes out on the top that allows the apple to hang independently so it's easy for us to pull off the tree and consume immediately. And let alone when we cut open the apple and there you come to the core. And at the core there are little seeds. Those are apple seeds. And those seeds, once the core are thrown out and the seeds are thrown back down on the ground, they drop into the ground so the very apple carries within it its own DNA of future existence. So now that apple may continue in Dore Dorot Yisharim Mevorach. that apple can have kids and grandkids, even after it was eaten. So it doesn't stop. The chesed of one apple kind of gives birth to many, many apples to come. And it's all packaged, placed, designed, and colored perfectly with you in mind. And that's just an apple. Did you ever hear Rabbi Miller on the orange? Oh my gosh. Oh, how you have the peel and then the soft part, and the peel, the inside would just be gooey, and now you would enjoy the inside, and it holds the juice so perfectly, and on the outside it's hard, and it is kind of bitter, and it keeps other animals away, so that the human can pull it open with his fingers. It's just genius after genius after genius after genius. And that's just an apple and an orange. We didn't get to the pear, and we didn't get to the strawberry. The strawberry. And we didn't get even to the leaves that are attached to the apple or the orange have a genius to it through photosynthesis, how Hashem uses the sun and it changes the color, and sometimes it camouflages the fruit as it develops. So other animals shouldn't disturb the development of the apple or the fruit until it reaches its pinnacle of being ripe. I mean, did you think about this? Niflaot haboreh that goes into a fruit, an apple. Says Maharal, you're going to come now and take that masterpiece of creation called the apple with divine genius and unbelievable plan and purpose to every detail of this apple. And what are you going to do? You're just going to walk up and bite it? Says the Maharal, you walk up and bite and eat the apple, you just brought a deficit to the world of something that was perfect, and now that you ate it, it no longer exists. Now the world is lacking a little perfection that God created and brought into the world. How do you fill that void? You were just holding something so brilliant, so perfect, and now you are mechaser it from the world. How do you fill the void of perfection after you ate that perfect apple? And the answer is you replace the perfection of the apple with the Beracha that you made on it. I'm hoping you caught that. You are mimale, the makom of that perfect creation that God created, that you just took out of the world for your own self-need, and replaced it with something even more perfect, a beracha, a blessing to Hashem. Now the apple did its tafkid. Now the apple did its godly service. It gave its life up for Kiddush Hashem. Maharal. So because now the apple upgraded itself and it brought more honor to God than its own existence, that's why we are allowed to eat it in lieu of the upgrade that we made a proper beracha on that apple, which is now considered a greater service or a bigger Kiddush Hashem than the essence of the apple itself. Wow. Shoo. We're on fire today, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't a Friday share. This is not a. But he's the one who makes the calls. What we don't. But that's the genius. And if this is the case, for you guys out there that learned the 6th perek of Masechet Berachot Be'iyun, and you turn that page and you remember what the Gemara said, Kol hanehene me'olam hazeh. Below beracha Ki'ilu gazal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anyone that takes any enjoyment from this world and he doesn't make a blessing, he's a ganav, he's a gazlan, he stole. He stole from God. But the Lashon's a funny Lashon. It says, Ki'ilu gazal le HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not Ki'ilu gazal me HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which I would expect, you took it from the owner. No. Ki'ilu gazal le HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a little bit funny. And because of that, right away, Rashi, the top Rashi on the page over there, Rashi says over there, Ki'ilu gazal le HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says Rashi, et birchato. You didn't steal the apple. You stole the beracha. That was the requirement for this apple to bring to. This apple was meant to bring to a bigger Kiddush Hashem in this world. It was ready to give its essence, its flesh, its color, its genius over as a Kiddush Hashem in order to bring bigger Kiddush Hashem, your blessing. And if you didn't make the blessing, then you stole its purpose. Ki'ilu gazal le HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You stole to the honor of God. This was supposed to bring le HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoter Kiddush Hashem. Says Rashi, how? Al yedei birchato. This was supposed to bring to a beracha, and you didn't make the beracha. Wow. And if that's the case, we just learned something tremendous, that the whole essence of the food was that it was here to give itself away so that it may be upgraded to bring bigger Kiddush Hashem le HaKadosh Baruch Hu al yedei your beracha. And therefore, when you're sitting down to the meal tonight, you look at the food, korbanot, because the food is here representing that which once upon a time brought great Kiddush Hashem to Hashem. But it has to be done with the right intent. Because if you don't have the right intent, then it's just grub. Grubhub, it's just grub, it's just food. You have the right intention, it's korbanot. It's sacrifice. It's giving itself over so that someone may make a beracha, so that its place in this world will bring to a greater service of Kiddush Hashem than its own essence. And if that's the case, now I think I understand why birkat hamazon brings to Parnassa b'kavod b'shefa. Because if you understand what we just said now, you will be food's best friend. Anytime food sees a guy like you who has the right intentions and has kavanan berachot, and he's the guy that brings tikkun to all foods, and he upgrades all the food to korbanot levels, and he has in mind, Baruch, you Hashem, you're the Mikor HaBeracha, Ata, you, En Od Milvado, Abba, I could talk to you in second person, Hashem, Yudke Vavke, the name of mercy, Elokeinu Melech Haolam, you are the king of the world, you're the Adon HaKol, everything belongs to you. When a guy makes a beracha like that on the food, woo! The food says, the apple says, I'm going to Gan Eden. At that point, the ma'udeh is not ma'udeh. The kibbutz saniyah is not saniyah, it's saniyah Eliyahu Hanavi at that point. It takes off. Because look what you just did to it. You allowed it to replace its essence with a blessing of Hashem. That's the upgrade of all upgrades. You upgraded to food, and because of that, food, Parnassa, mazon, chases you. It looks for a guy like you. It chases you. You're a magnet. You're a food magnet. because this guy brings unbelievable tikkun to this world, al yedeh his mazon, and therefore mizonotav mitsuyin lo b'chavod kol yamav. His food gives him honor. It's a new little point here. His food gives him honor because, of course, I'll be mechabed. You're my rabbi. You're upgrading me l'shem shamayim. And therefore Parnassa chases this guy. Whereas the other guy who doesn't make birachot, he's the birkat, and he has the food in his mouth already. He's the guy that doesn't make beracha. To him, food is food. To him, it's just it's just a feasting meal, and it's all about me and my stomach. This has nothing to do with God, and leave me alone. That type of guy, not only isn't he upgrading the food, he's downgrading the world. Moments ago, I had something perfect in the world called an apple with such genius, plan, and purpose, and you took that out of the world. How did you fill its space? Where's the makeup? Nothing. So you're just leaving this world with deficit after deficit of perfection. That guy, not only doesn't he upgrade the food, but he leaves the world with deficit. That guy, food runs away from. His mizonotav, no kavod to this guy. He's destroying us. We're giving ourselves away for naught, for nothing. That guy, his mizonotav, runs away from him. We got to be the guy that the mizonot chases us. The great food mitaken on tonight's tikkun is unbelievable. Friday night. That Friday night. I wait all week for the Friday night meal. It's such a special Lel Shishi, what we could be zochet to, mamish. We come as kohanim in a meal. Hashem should be mezakeh us to really be able to upgrade the meal, the food, the table, and all that is a great zichut. Then now comes birkat hamazon, and we say, Borei Olam, ani asiti et sheli. Thank you for providing the perfection. I provided the substitute of its magnificence. Birkat hamazon. And therefore, anyone that says Birkat hamazon word for word, slowly, inside the Siddur, he is celebrating with Hashem that we upgraded the food that you gave us to new heights, to greater Kiddush Hashem. And that's what it means in the Gemara. Bizman sheYisrael osim et ritzon hamakom, I believe is the lashon over there. That's a pshat. Ritzon hamakom. He's doing the ratzon of the makom is Hashem, of course. But as a drush, the ritzon of the makom, he's being memaleh the place that had perfection with something greater, the Beracha itself. We can upgrade the food, we can upgrade the table and our families. And if by upgrading the food and the birkat hamazon that demonstrates that, with the right intent, then the Parnassa chases us, and the mizonot chases us and gives us kavod our whole lifetime. I want to ask you a question. If by upgrading food we're zochet to such greatness, and we're mitaken such tikkunim, and like the Arizal himself wrote, he says he reached his heights of greatness through birkat hanehenin. Something you wouldn't expect. You would expect that the Arizal to write that he became the Arizal through the Zohar HaKadosh. That's what you thought. You would expect that he would have said, I became the Arizal through some major, different Kabbalistic tikkunim. No. The Arizal says on himself that he became the Arizal through the laws and the tikkunim of birkat hanehenin, the berachot on food. What we can be, it's unbelievable. And if that's the case, if by upgrading food we could reach such tikkunim, literally be makriv korbanot, literally taking on the role of kohen gadol, literally rising our table up to be a mizbeach, to the extent that shulchano shel adam is mechaprin alav. If that's what happens by upgrading food to be a Kiddush Hashem, how much more when you're able to upgrade people's life? How much greater of a Kiddush Hashem that is? How much greater of a tikkun that is? That's not just food. That's lidorot. And I was thought to myself, maybe that's the pshat behind why tzedakah brings to so much hatzlacha. Maybe that's why tzedakah brings to wealth. You speak to so many wealthy people, they'll tell you how they give their maaser, how they give their tzedakah, how one time they had a person that was in desperate need and they gave them tzedakah and suddenly their problems went away, their nechasim took off, they became rich. Why does tzedakah make people wealthy? Because that person was falling apart. And you upgraded his life. You upgraded his life, not his food, not just his food, not just his rent, not just his marriage, not just his kids. You upgraded his whole life. Higia mayim ad nafesh. This guy was ready to fall apart. He was ready to throw in the towel. He was ready to give up. And you turned around and you were merachem. And you gave him what he needed at the moment he needed it. You saved his life. You upgraded his whole being. Now every time this guy makes a beracha, not just you, every time this guy makes a beracha, and this guy does a mitzvah, and this guy goes back to a Torah lifestyle, it was all you. That's a bigger Kiddush Hashem than anything else. Till now the guy couldn't, and now because of you, he can. Tzedakah tatzil mimavet. I wanted to say a chidush. It's not you, it's him. Your tzedakah saved him from falling apart, from dying. So you literally did chiyat hametim with your tzedakah, and therefore it'll save you from mavet, midah keneged midah. But bigger than that, you brought the biggest Kiddush Hashem into this world. Because every good thing that's going to come out of this guy from this day on, because he was about to check out. He was about to check out. Your tzedakah was tatzil him mimavet. Because you don't know where the other guy's holding. There are people that are holding on a ledge. But your tzedakah saved him. You took him down from the ledge. You told him, don't jump. I'll help. Somebody's thinking about me. Someone cares about me. I have hope. Then I have a reason to live. That person, whatever good comes out from them at that point and on, is yours. You just upgraded not the food, but the whole essence of the mensch. And out of him now is going to come tremendous Kiddush Hashem that would not have happened if not for you. And that's why tzedakah is fantastic. Specifically by people that are in desperate need and they're about to throw in the towel and they're about to give up. Real aniyim. And what about aniyim? Talmidei chachamim? Whoa! This guy couldn't learn. This guy opened up a Gemara. You know what he saw? His bills. This guy opened up a Siddur to pray. You know what he saw? His wife broken. His kids hungry. He had no head. No, he couldn't pray. He couldn't learn. He couldn't anything. He's a human being. It's too difficult of a test. And then you came along. And you helped that Ani Talmid Chacham. And you took the cinder blocks off his shoulders. Now he can learn. Now when he opens up the Gemara, he sees Me'ematai Korin Shema Be'arbin. He doesn't see credit card bills. He doesn't see utility bills. He doesn't see pink slips. So when you gave him tzedakah, you gave him a ticket out of death. And now everything he does is a Kiddush Hashem that you brought into this world higher than anything else. Like the apple. You replace the apple with a higher Kiddush Hashem. Over here you replace the person with a living Kiddush Hashem. And that's why I keep telling people, if you need Yeshuot, stop wasting your time. Go out and pick up somebody that is about to throw in the towel. Give them life, and you'll see your life will quickly change right after that. Pick up an almanah. Support her. We have a whole list of almanot that for $300, $400, $500, $600 a month, you could support her and her children in Israel. You know how many almanot? How many almanot we're working with Yad Eliezer? How many almanot? How many people passed away in Corona? We have almanot. And they have little kids. And they have nobody. I mean, here's a woman who her husband was the breadwinner. She was at home with her children, bringing up her kids. Now she has nobody. And every time people, well, where's the family? Where's this? You think it's easy. People are barely making it on their own self, on their own family. You expect them now to support other families. Of course they try. They help a little here, they help a little there, whatever they can. But it's never enough. You know how it is. Pick up an almanah. Call me. I'm not going to answer, but call me. 732-520-0557. Sponsor an almanah every month. You just took a person who saw no way out and thought that life was over. When she lost her husband, her life in her eyes, in her mind, it's choshech. It's over. Her kids, herself, don't think that after the Shiva and after the Shloshim and even after the Shana that it's over. They live with that pain. They live with that choshech and that darkness for many years to come. And it doesn't heal. It's a void that doesn't heal. They want to throw in the towel because they just don't have a way to continue. And you came along. And you said, I'm going to take this broken person, and I'm going to make believe I'm a Tana, and I'm going to do Tchiyat HaMetim. I'm going to give them $500 a month that they may live, that there's someone out there that cares for them and that's thinking about them, and that they're not in choshech, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And then you send that money on a credit card just month by month. It's just automatic, $400 a month, $500 a month. Everything that's going to come out now from the new life of this almanah and her children, every Beracha, every Torah, if one of her kids become Talmid Chacham, you just hit a jackpot, a lottery, a mega million lottery, because it's all yours, because that's your Kiddush Hashem. You are the one that were upgraded and mitaken, their whole essence that was already holding by checking out. You come to Yom Kippur, you come to Rosh Hashanah in only a month and a half or two. And Hashem looks like the IRS. Lahavdil elef alfei avdalot. Bad statement. Bad statement. But the IRS on your tax return wants to know, how many dependents do you have? So I'll know how to structure your taxes and what you need to pay and what you're exempt from. Your exemptions are based on your dependence. Hashem, kivyachol, lahavdil elef alfei 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 avdalot, the IRS, Hashem also looks at your exemptions according to your dependence. How many dependents do you have on your neshama? How many people depend on you? Hashem says, when I make my Parnassa heshbon to give you for the coming year, I need to give it according to your dependence. Your exemptions of how much I'm going to let go and be mechaper and look away is talui on your dependence. How many dependents do you have? When you take an almanah and her family, they are considered now your family in Shamayim. They're your dependents. They depend on you month by month. For what? For what? For what? Me and my wife, we spend more money on Starbucks a month. $300-$400. Over here you're talking about Chaye Olam Haba, for beyond your imagination. And I could come into Yom Adin and say, Hashem, I've been holding the almanah. Could you hold me? They depend on me. I depend on you. You get the chain of command there? It says Borei Olam. This guy, he's supporting almanot in Yitomim. What do you think he's going to give you? Huh? He brings Kiddush Hashem to this world. He saves lives of people. Every Beracha, every Torah, every future of the kids, it's yours. Now's the time we need Yeshuot. People need help. They need help in Parnassa. They need help in Yeshuot. They need help in Refu'ah. They need help in so many areas. You need help? Go out and get a zechut. But a zechut that's going to recreate the essence of a person in this world to bring out much greater Kiddush Hashem. Boy, can you take that to the bank. Especially this Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. And especially now. You want something? In these times, you need a zechut in order to cash in, to get what you need. You could be someone else. You can be someone else's Eliyahu Hanavi. You could upgrade people. If upgrading food is that big, birkat mazon, Parnassa, kol yamav, it chases you. Could you imagine what happens when you upgrade people and you save their lives? So it was a man that came to the great Baal Shem Tov and said to the Baal Shem Rebbe, my whole life, there was one thing that I always wanted so deeply, so desperately. I want so much to see Eliyahu Hanavi. Please, could you work that out for me? Tell me where he is. I know you know. How could I meet Eliyahu Hanavi? I just want to see him once, just once in my lifetime. I just want to give him Shalom Aleichem. Once. Eliyahu Hanavi. I want to see him. The Baal Shem looks at the man. It's okay. I'll tell you. But follow my instruction. He says, Rebbe, whatever you tell me. It's okay. I want you to take a basket, fill it up with bread and food, and all types of delicacies and salads and drink. I'm going to give you an address, one town over. I want you to go there, Erev Shabbat. Ask to stay there for Shabbat. And you'll see Eliyahu Hanavi. Yeah. But don't, Rebbe, just give me the address. I won't say a word. The Baal Shem gives him the address. The man goes out to the market. He buys the best food, bread, delicacies. I'm coming to meet Eliyahu Hanavi. You know what I'm saying? You're not coming with the package. He's coming with the best stuff. He travels to the next town. Friday afternoon, he knocks on the door. A woman comes to the door. Can I help you? He says, hi, my name is so-and-so. I have a lot of food here. I'd like to come for Shabbat. She looks at him. She says, okay, I'm sure my children would be so happy. She shows him to the guest room. He looks around and says, where's your husband? She says, I have no husband. I'm a widow. He died years ago. It's just me and the children. He says, I'm so sorry to hear. That Friday night, this man makes Kiddush. Because of the food that he brought, the table was decked out. I mean, he had enough for a shabbat. The kids, they were eating like that. The mother was happy. The kids were singing. It seems that they were not well off at all. To them, this was a phenomenon. After Shabbat was over, the man is waiting. Friday night, Shabbat morning, Shabbat afternoon. No! Friday night, he thought he'd come to him in a dream. Something! Give me something! The Rebbe said. Shabbat was over. No Eliyahu. No nothing. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Tishbi, Eliyahu Giladi. Bimhera yavo, but not yet. He goes back to his town, Motzei Shabbat, and he comes to the Baal Shem. Oh, I wasn't Zeiche. Baal Shem says, yeah, you didn't see him? He says, no. What do you mean? He was right there. He was right in front of you. I didn't see him. Rebbe, I didn't see him. Baal Shem said, how could that be? He was right in front of you. I didn't see him. Okay. Go back next Friday. This time, Bezat Hashem, maybe you'll see him. That Friday, he goes to the market, he gets all the food. He goes to the next town. Friday afternoon, knocks on the door. The almanah comes to the door. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. You want to spend Shabbat with us again? We'd love to have you. Last Shabbat was the best Shabbat we've ever had. He says, yes, please, please. He comes in. He gives them all the food. He goes to his room. Friday night, he's singing Zmirot with the kids. He's looking around. Under the table. Shabbat morning. Shabbat evening. Sudat Shalishit. Razin de Razin. Nothing. Shabbat's over. He goes back to the Baal Shem. He says, Rebbe, that's it. I guess I'm just not Zeicha. Moshe, I don't get you. He was looking right at you. You didn't see it? He says, no. But he was right in front of your face. He said, I didn't see him. Rebbe, I don't know what you're saying. Baal Shem says, okay, listen. Just try one more time. I think this time you'll see him. He says, yeah. He said, just one more time you'll see him. That Friday, he goes to the market. He gets the bread and the food and the delicacies and everything. He goes over to the next town. He walks up to the door. He's about to knock. And just then, through the door, a thin, broken door, he hears voices. He hears children talking. And he hears one child say to the mother, Ma, are we going to have anything to eat this Shabbat? We didn't eat all week. Ma, last Shabbat was so beautiful. 2 Shabbats ago was so unbelievable. Ma, do you think we'll have anything to eat this Shabbat? And the mother says to the kids, my children, I don't know what to tell you. Last Shabbat and 2 Shabbats ago, Hashem sent us Eliyahu Hanavi. And he brought food. And he brought drinks. And he brought bread. And he brought all the delicacies for our Shabbat table. I don't know if he's going to come this week or not. Let's daven that he comes this week. And the man stops. And he hears this. And he thinks, now I get it. And he knocks on the door. And the door swings open. And the kids look at him and they all scream, Eliyahu Hanavi! Eliyahu Hanavi! You could be someone else's Eliyahu Hanavi. Bimhera yavo v'yigalenu. This is what the Geula is based on. Not just the mitaken of the tikkun of food and Parnassa, but the mitaken, the tikkun of people. Broken people. Almanot yitomim. $400-500 a month. It's nothing. We pay more for our cars. We pay more for everything in life. That's a convenience. And to them, this is oxygen. This is life. Be merachem. Rachmanim b'nei rachmanim. Be mitaken another Jew, an almanah, and her children. And the great zchuyot. We're going to come into Yom Adin, and Hashem's going to say, woo, this guy has a whole new family of dependents. And he depends on me. I'm not going to let them down. Shabbat Shalom.